Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Live Ones. I am Big Matt, your capper extraordinaire. The big story today, the NFL goes to Brazil and promptly stinks up the joint. One of the absolute sloppiest professional football games I've seen in years. The very first offensive play by the Eagles, new free agent running back Saquon Barkley takes the ball in the backfield, takes one step, and slips and falls right on his face. The turf was getting ripped to shreds all game, from soaking wet bits of it getting clumped up in players' cleats. The Packers had 5 penalties on their opening 2 drives. Jalen Hurts had 2 interceptions and a turnover by himself. When all was said and done, the Eagles came out the winner. But man, it really didn't feel like it. Just felt like it was the team who scored last. Hopefully the NFL will not be back there anytime soon. There was nothing about that game that was a positive viewing experience. It's a super Saturday of sports. We're going to get to a full slate of college football, a full slate of baseball, and UFC Fight Night to go over. Let's get right to it. And the first game we're going to look at today from the noon slate is Oklahoma State and Arkansas. Arkansas spent their week one hanging 670 on the hapless Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions in their annual Fund the Athletics Department for the rest of the year game. Oklahoma State spent it battling out with the much better perennial FCS juggernaut South Dakota State, who is a squad who I think would be an odds-on favorite against about 20 FBS schools, a lot of whom were FCS schools themselves just a couple of years ago. Thank you, conference expansion. The Cowboys utterly dominated and won by 24 in a game where they were only 12.5-point favorites. Again, don't sleep on a team just because they're FCS. These cats can play football. Oklahoma State has an offensive game built for the run and led by Ollie Gordon II, who led the nation in running yards last year. It's got an offensive line that's crazy experienced and will be opening up holes you can drive a truck through for him all game long. Arkansas was one of the worst run defenses in the Power 4 last year, 74th in EPA per rush allowed. Plus, they lost a lot of the experience that they did have with all 3 of their starting linebackers now gone. That spells a long day for the Razorbacks D. Taylon Green from Boise State is Arkansas's new quarterback. He was pedestrian in his career at Boise State, only averaged 138 passing yards a game, was relied on mainly for his legs, and moving up to the SEC is going to mean a really big step up in the quality of ball he's expected to play. I expect him to hit a big fat brick wall once conference play starts. Arkansas is just way too thin in terms of personnel to pose much of a challenge to the Cowboys. They should run the ball down the Razorbacks' throats all day long. I'm taking Oklahoma State -10. Army and FAU. Army greatly improved at the end of the last season by getting back to basics with the one thing that they do that's so well practiced it often looks like the inside of a Seiko watch. That triple option offense led them to wins over number 17 Air Force, Holy Cross, Coastal Carolina, who was pretty good last year, and finally Navy in the final game. They are supremely undervalued heading into this season. I think FAU had one of the ugliest games of week 1 in a loss to Michigan State, who themselves are headed for a down year. Marshall transfer and future Starbucks barista Cam Fancher stunk up the joint, as he is wont to do. This kid has either turned it over multiple times or been sacked 3+ times in 8 out of his last 9 starts. He might actually be the worst starting quarterback in Division I, and let me tell you, that covers a lot of ground. Expect Army to grind the ball out with that triple option, as they always do, and keep the clock running. Expect Fancher to make a lot of mistakes against a tough defense. Army is plus value today. I have no idea why. Take them on the money line, +135. The Cy Hawk Trophy game, Iowa and Iowa State, the big rivalry. And folks, much like the rest of you, I couldn't believe my eyes last week when I saw the Hawkeyes actually playing offense. What in the actual hell? Cade McNamara will go down in Iowa lore forever for just that one game against Illinois State. He threw for 251 yards and 3 touchdowns, all of which were thrown to receivers. That's more receiving touchdowns than Iowa had all of last season. You don't want to overreact too much to a week 1 game, but The Cyclones, meanwhile, played North Dakota, an FCS team, and gave up 174 yards on the ground. North Dakota had one drive that lasted 23 plays and took 12 minutes off the clock. Just a typical defense-optional Big 12 program, as they always are. If last week is any indication, this is an entirely new Iowa offense, and the market has yet to catch up with it. That's reflected in the Hawkeyes' team total of 18.5. Believe me when I say I jumped all over that. That was the first play I made today. This is Iowa's biggest rivalry game. They're not overlooking it for a bigger opponent coming up. They're at home. This has the potential to be the most motivated they'll be all year. Give me Iowa's team total over 18.5. I can't believe I'm saying that. Evening games, I'm looking at Houston and Oklahoma. Houston looked dreadful in week 1 against UNLV, just dreadful. They went down 27-7, and I really question the Willie Fritz hire. It took him almost a decade to finally turn around Tulane's fortunes, and you can argue he got really, really lucky by having an NFL-caliber quarterback and running back land in his lap at the same time. That being said, the Cougars are not as bad as they looked last week, at least not on offense. I love what Kevin Barbary did at App State as their offensive coordinator. Parker Jenkins is a solid running back who can deliver explosive plays when you least expect it. And Oklahoma is the prototypical defense optional program who would rather just beat you by scoring more points than you do. The Cougars will be able to contribute some points to the total of 49 today. Oklahoma will naturally just go nuts on high-tempo offense just like they did last week against Temple. Houston isn't much better on defense than Temple was. I expect this total to get into the high 50s, maybe low 60s. Give me the over 49 points. Late night West Coast action, and if you like track meet games, look no further than Oregon and Boise State. A lot of people have had this game circled on their calendars since before the season started. Ashton Jeanty is a special player. I consider him the third best running back in the country after Travion Henderson and Ollie Gordon II. And man, did he move the ball last week. 267 yards, averaged 13.4 yards a carry, 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns by a running back. The offense runs through this man. Boise State is poised to make some real noise and I think has a pretty good shot to run the table in the Mountain West and be the Group of 5 conference winner that gets into the playoff. Oregon, meanwhile, really stumbled out of the gate against Idaho. They were a 50-point favorite and just escaped with a 24-14 win. Despite the score, though, moving the ball wasn't the problem. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel threw for 380 yards, 10 different receivers caught passes. It was just finishing drives. That was the problem for them. But they have a great opportunity for a get-right game tonight because as good as Boise State looked on offense last week, they were atrocious on defense. They allowed 45 points, 461 total yards of offense, and 322 passing yards to Georgia Southern. If you think Oregon can't take advantage of that kind of weakness through the air, you don't know the Oregon football program. I fully expect this game to be an offensive explosion. Oregon has the decided advantage in that front, but Boise State has more than enough talent to keep it fun and interesting. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Give me the over 60.5 points. So that'll do it for college football. Let's talk baseball, and a game I have my eye on tonight is the Rays and the Orioles. We have 2 solid pitchers in good form taking the mound tonight in Zach Eflin and Ryan Pepiot. Eflin is playing the best ball of his career with the Orioles. He's 10-7 through 24 starts this season with a 3.60 ERA and a 1.12 WHIP. More to the point, he's eating innings. 6 is a guarantee with Eflin, and a lot of times he'll get you through 7 innings while posting those positive numbers. Eflin has surrendered 3 or fewer runs in 6 consecutive starts. Tampa Bay really struggles against right-handers, hitting .221 with only 3.8 runs per 9 against them. Pepiot is 7-6 through 21 starts with a 3.76 ERA and a 1.12 WHIP. Basically, like very, very comparable pitchers on the mound tonight. He didn't look great against San Diego, but he's been a solid hand overall this season. Last night was a 2-0 pitchers duel between Shane Baz and Dean Kramer. I similarly like this total to stay nice and low. Give me the under 8 runs. UFC Fight Night, and the bout that I like tonight is a flyweight match between unranked contenders Felipe Dos Santos and Andre Lima. Lima is 9-0 professionally. Dos Santos has lost a couple of fights, so obviously Lima is the favorite tonight. But with that said, I don't think he should be. Dos Santos has fought against much tougher competition. Lima hasn't really beaten anyone worth noting. His last win came by a split decision against Mitch Raposo, who does not even fight in the UFC. Dos Santos has a very fast-paced and aggressive style that I don't think Lima's going to be prepared for. I really like him as a live dog tonight. Give me Felipe Dos Santos to win outright at plus 150. That's going to be it for me. Everyone bet safe, stay safe. Follow us on X at Live One Sports. Check us out on Roku and Fire TV at the Live Ones. Have yourselves a great Super Saturday of sports, and I will see you next time.